is anatomical layers of interior abdominal wall and abdominal incisions for gynecological surgery. Anatomy of interior wall. Why it is important? If we know the anatomy of the interior abdominal wall perfectly, we can avoid the injuries to vessels and nerves, and also we can close any incision with minimal chance of dehiscence. The abdomen is a region of the body that is located between diaphragm above and pelvic inlet below. The boundaries superiorly are the costal cartilage of 7th, 8th, and 9th ribs. Laterally, it is formed by iliac crest, and inferiorly by inguinal ligament, the pubic crests, and the superior border of pubic symphysis. The abdomen is divided into 9 quadrants by 2 vertical lines that are at the level of mid-clavicular point superiorly and mid-inguinal point inferiorly. And the 2 horizontal lines are at the level of subcostal edges superiorly and right and left iliac tubercles inferiorly. The structure of the abdominal wall from outside to inside consists of skin, superficial fascia, deep fascia, muscle, extraperitoneal fascia, and parietal peritoneum. The skin is loosely attached to the underlying structures except the umbilicus, and the umbilicus is a scar representing the site of attachment of the umbilical cord in the fetus, and it is situated in the linea alba. Superficial fascia. The superficial fascia is divided into superficial fatty layer, fascia of Camper, and deep membranous layer, that is Carpa's fascia. Superficial fatty layer, it is continuous with the superficial fat all over the rest of the body. In the scrotum, it is modified as a thin, smooth muscle layer called dartos muscle. And the deep membranous layer in the midline inferiorly, the membranous layer of the fascia is not attached to the pubis but forms a tubular sheath for the clitoris in females and penis in male. Uh, Below in the perineum, it enters the wall of labia majora, and from there it passes to be attached on each side to the margins of the pubic arch, and here it is called as Colles fascia. The T fascia is a thin layer of connective tissue covering the muscle. It lies immediately deep to the membranous layer of the superficial fascia. The muscles of anterior abdominal wall consist of 3 broad thin sheets that are aponeurotic in front, and from exterior to interior they are external oblique muscle, internal oblique, and transverse abdominis muscle. So in this picture we can see the external oblique, and below that the internal oblique and the transverse abdominis muscle. On either side of the midline anteriorly is a wide vertical muscle, uh, rectus abdominis muscle. As the epineuroses of the 3 muscle sheath pass forward, they enclose the rectus abdominis to form the rectus sheath. And this rectus sheath above the arcuate line, it is the anterior rectus sheath is formed by the aponeurosis of external oblique muscle and the anterior lamina of the aponeurosis of internal oblique, and the posterior rectus sheath is formed by the posterior lamina of aponeurosis of internal oblique and transverse abdominis aponeurosis and transversalis fascia. While below arcuate line, the posterior rectus sheath is formed only by the transversalis fascia. External oblique muscle is a broad, thin muscular sheet originates from lower 8 ribs and get inserted in the xiphoid process, alba, pubic crest, pubic tubercle, and iliac crest, and it is supplied by lower 6 thoracic nerves and iliohypogastric and ilioinguinal nerves. It supports abdominal contents, it compresses abdominal contents and assists in flexion and rotation of the trunk, and also assist in the forced expiration, micturition, defecation, parturition, and vomiting. The internal oblique muscle is also a broad, thin muscular sheath that lies deep to the external oblique muscle, and it originates from lumbar fascia, iliac crest, lateral two-thirds of the inguinal ligament, and get inserted on the lower three ribs and their costal cartilages. Xiphoid process, linea alba, and symphysis pubis. It is supplied by the lower six thoracic nerves and iliohypogastric and ilioinguinal nerves, and the action is same as that of the external oblique muscle. Transverse abdominis is also a thin sheet of muscle that lies deep to the internal oblique, and it originates from the lower six costal cartilage, lumbar fascia, iliac crest, and lateral two-thirds of the inguinal ligament, and it get inserted in the xiphoid process, linea albus, and symphysis pubis, and supplied by the lower six thoracic nerves and iliohypogastric and ilioinguinal nerve. It also compresses the abdominal contents. The rectus abdominis is a long strap muscle that extends along the whole length of anterior abdominal wall. It is broader above and lies close to the midline, being separated from its fellow by the linea alba. It originates from the symphysis pubis and pubic crest and get inserted in the fifth, sixth, and seventh costal cartilage and xiphoid process. And it is supplied by the lower six thoracic nerves. It compresses the abdominal contents and flexes vertebral column, and is also an accessory muscle for. When rectus abdominis contracts, its lateral margin forms a curved ridge that can be palpated often seen and is termed as linea semilunaris. This extends from the tip of ninth costal cartilage to the pubic tubercle. The rectus abdominis is divided into distinct segments by three transverse tendinous intersections at the level of xiphoid process, umbilicus, and halfway between these two. Another muscle, pyramidalis, it originates from anterior surface of the pubis and get inserted on linea alba and is supplied by the 12th thoracic nerve. It tenses the linea alba. Extraperitoneal fascia. The extraperitoneal fat is a thin layer of connective tissue that contains a variable amount of fat and lies between the fascia transversalis and parietal peritoneum. The walls of the abdomen are lined with parietal peritoneum. This is a thin serous membrane that is continuous below with the parietal peritoneal lining of the pelvis. The nerve supply of the anterior abdominal wall are the anterior rami of the lower six thoracic and the first lumbar nerve. The lower six nerves are the lower five intercostals and the subcostal nerve. The first lumbar nerve is represented by iliohypogastric and ilioinguinal nerves that are the branches of lumbar plexus. They supply skin of the anterior abdominal wall, the muscles, and the parietal peritoneum. The lower six thoracic nerves pierce the posterior wall of rectus sheath to supply the rectus muscles and the pyramidalis muscle. The oblique and transverse abdominis muscles are supplied by lower six thoracic nerves and the iliohypogastric and ilioinguinal nerves. The rectus muscle is supplied by lower six thoracic nerves, and the pyramidalis is supplied by the 12th thoracic nerve. Now, the important dermatomes of the abdominal wall is the T7 that lies at the level of xiphoid process, T10 at the level of umbilicus, and L1 at the level of pubis. Blood supply of the anterior abdominal wall. The skin near the midline is supplied by the branches of superior and the inferior epigastric arteries, and the skin of the flank is supplied by the branches of the intercostal, lumbar, and circumflex iliac arteries. The superior epigastric is one of the terminal branch of the internal thoracic artery, enters the upper part of rectus sheath. It descends behind the rectus muscle, supplying the upper central part of the anterior abdominal wall, and anastomose with the inferior epigastric artery. While the inferior epigastric artery is a branch of external iliac artery, just above the inguinal ligament, and it supplies the rectus muscle and the lower central part of anterior abdominal wall and anastomose with the superior epigastric artery. The deep circumflex iliac artery is a branch of external iliac artery just above the inguinal ligament. It supplies the lower lateral part of the abdominal wall, and the lower two posterior intercostal arteries are the branches of descending thoracic aorta, and the four lumbar arteries are the branches of abdominal aorta that pass forward between the muscle layer and supplies the lateral part of the abdominal wall. The venous drainage, there are a few superficial veins. The superficial veins form the network that radiates out from the umbilicus. Above the umbilicus, the network is drained into axillary vein via lateral thoracic vein. And below the umbilicus, it is drained into the femoral vein via superficial epigastric and Graves saphenous veins. The deep vein of the abdominal wall, the superior epigastric, inferior epigastric, and deep circumflex iliac vein follows the arteries of the same name and drain into the internal thoracic and external iliac veins. Superficial lymphatics, the lymphatics in the region above umbilicus drain into the axillary lymph nodes, which can be palpated just beneath the lower border of the pectoralis major muscle, and lymphatics in the region below umbilicus drain into superficial inguinal nodes. The deep lymph vessels follow the arteries and drain into the internal thoracic, external iliac, and posterior mediastinal and para. Now, coming to the abdominal incisions in gynecological surgeries. The first successful abdominal operation was performed by McDowell in 1809. Earlier, the abdominal incisions that were used were longitudinal incisions as they were easy and the entry was rapid, and they avoided the transverse incision because they were more time consuming, and the fear was that transaction of rectus muscle would leave a defect because of the retraction of muscles. So, what is a surgical incision? Surgical incision is a cut that is made through the skin to facilitate the operation or a procedure. It should be the aim of the surgeon to employ the type of incision considered to be most suitable for that particular operation to be performed. In doing so, three essentials should be achieved: accessibility, extensibility, and a reliable closure. Principle that should be applied: incision should be long enough for good exposure. Splitting is better than cutting. Avoid cutting of nerves and vessels, and retract muscles and abdominal organ towards the neurovascular bundles. And the transverse incision are better than vertical incision. Close the wound layer by layer. Choice of incision basically depends on the type of surgery, whether it is elective or emergency, the target organ that has to be reached, the surgeon's own experience and preference, and the history of previous surgery. Ideal incision allows ease of access to the desired structures, can be extended if needed. Ideally, muscles should be split rather than cut, and heals quickly with minimal scarring. Langer lines corresponds to the natural orientation of the collagen fibers in the dermis and are generally parallel to the orientation of the underlying muscle fibers. So incision made parallel to Langer lines may heal better and produce less scarring than those that are cut across. Abdominal incision for most gynecological procedure can be divided mainly into the transverse and vertical incision, and oblique in cases of extraperitoneal or transperitoneal approach. The transverse incisions, they have advantage because they have best cosmetic results and are 30 times stronger than midline incision. They are less painful, results in less interference with the post-operative respiration, and less wound dehiscence occur. Disadvantages are they are more time consuming, relatively more hemorrhagic, and less exposure is there. When we divide the multiple layer of fascias and muscles, there are formation of potential spaces where hematoma and seroma can form. Various transverse sensation are Pfannenstiel, Maillard sensation, Kutzner sensation, and Czerny sensation. Pfannenstiel incision is a transverse incision that are slightly curved, 10 to 15 centimeter long, about centimeter above the pubic symphysis. It has excellent cosmetic results. The exposure is limited. If extended laterally, injury to iliohypogastric and ilioinguinal nerves occur. In case of Pfannenstiel incision, we cannot use this incision in the patients of malignancies and also in patients where extensive exposure is required, as in cases of severe endometriosis or large leiomyomas. This is a picture showing the Pfannenstiel incision, which is semicircular and is made slightly above the mons pubis for a length of 12 centimeter. In case of when we make a Pfannenstiel incision, the rectus sheath is separated inferiorly from the rectus muscle to the pubic symphysis. Then the rectus muscles are separated in the midline and retracted laterally. Transverse fascia and peritoneum is incised longitudinally. Kutzner incision is a modified Pfannenstiel incision. It is slightly curved transverse incision below the level of anterior superior iliac spine and extends just below the pubic hairline through subcutaneous fat down to the aponeurosis of external oblique muscle and anterior rectus sheath. The inferior epigastric may be encountered in subcutaneous fat at the lateral margin of the incision. In this incision, the fascia is cleared superiorly and inferiorly to create a space to permit adequate vertical incision. But during the excessive separation of the lateral edges are not required because they can create potential spaces and which can further lead to hematoma formation. Separation of rectus muscle and entrance into peritoneum is similar to the ordinary midline incision. In this picture, we can see the subcutaneous fat and tissues are separated and the rectus sheath is divided incised longitudinally and then retracted. And then the rectus muscles are retracted laterally to expose the peritoneum, and a vertical incision is made in the peritoneum to enter the abdomen. Czerny's incision, this is a rectus freeing incision. The rectus are transected at the tendinous insertion into the symphysis pubis, and this incision provides an excellent access to the space of Retzius and the pelvic side walls. Bleeding is negligible in this type of incision because the inferior epigastric vessels course more laterally in this in this area. In Czerny's incision, we can see the anterior rectus sheath is reflected inferiorly to the pubic symphysis border, and the tendinous portion of rectus and pyramidus muscles are incised transversely 5 mm above the periosteum of the superior border of pubic symphysis. Then the rectus and pyramidalis tendons are retracted superiorly. The peritoneum is excised transversely. And when the incision is, when we are closing the abdomen, then the tendinous flap of the rectus abdominis muscles are reflected downwards, and they are sutured to the lower flaps of the rectus sheath with interrupted matrix suture. Coming to Maillard's incision, it is a transverse muscle cutting incision. It provides excellent pelvic exposure. It is used for radical pelvic surgery, including radical hysterectomy with pelvic lymph node dissection and pelvic exenteration. Inferior epigastric vessels may be ligated before incising the rectus muscle to avoid tearing of vessels, vessel retraction, and hematoma formation. In malar incision, we can see rectus sheath is reflected superiorly and the muscles are cut transversely. And the inferior epigastric vessels are ligated. And then the cut edges of the rectus muscles are the cut edges of rectus muscle superiorly are suture to the rectus sheath with metric suture and inferiorly with the lower part of the rectus sheath. The differences in the different transverse incisions in Pfannenstiel, Czerny's, Maillard, and Kutzner, the skin is incised transversely. The fascia is transversely incised in Pfannenstiel, Czerny's, and Maillard's, while in Kutzner, the fascia is incised vertical. The peritoneal entry is vertical in Pfannenstiel and Kutzner, while it is transverse in Czerny's and Maillard. The muscle is detached in Czerny's, while it is cut in Maillard's. Coming to vertical incision, they have certain advantages like they gives excellent exposure, they are easily extended, there can be rapid entry to the abdominal cavity with minimal nerve damage and are least hemorrhagic. The disadvantages are that wound dehiscence and hernias are more common, poor cosmetic results, higher infection rate, hemorrhage, and operating time with compared to paramedian incisions. The vertical incision can be a median incision and it can be upper midline incision, lower midline incision, and a single midline incision. The significance of median incision is that it is favored in diagnostic laparotomy as it allows wide access to the abdominal cavity. Advantages of midline incision is that it is almost bloodless, no muscle fibers are divided, no nerves are injured, good access to the upper abdominal viscera, very quick to make as well very quick to close, can be extended full length of the abdominal curving around the umbilical scar. Disadvantages of midline is that the care needs to be taken just above the umbilicus where falciform ligament is present and the bladder injury. Upper midline incision extends from the xiphoid process to just above the umbilicus. Division of the peritoneum is best performed at the lower end of the incision just above the umbilicus so that the falciform ligament can be seen and avoided. Lower midline incision extends from umbilicus superiorly to the pubic symphysis inferiorly. It allows access to the pelvic organs. The peritoneum should be opened in the uppermost area to avoid injury to the bladder. And the full midline incision extends from the xiphoid process to the pubic symphysis. Paramedian incisions are lateral to midline. They split the rectus muscle longitudinally. Risk of bleeding and nerve injuries are increased in paramedian incisions. Greater strength than midline incision. Modified paramedian incision retracts the rectus muscle laterally before incising the posterior rectus sheath and peritoneum. The paramedian incisions are placed 2 to 5 centimeter lateral to midline over medial aspect of bulging transverse convexity of the rectus muscle. The advantages of paramedian are they provide access to lateral structures, they avoid injury to nerves, limit trauma to rectus muscle, permits good restoration of abdominal wall function, can be extended by slanting the upper end of the incision medially towards the xiphoid process if required. And disadvantages are its time consuming, incision needs to be closed in layers and there is difficult extension superiorly as limited by costal margin, tends to strip the muscle of their lateral blood supply and the nerve supply resulting in atrophy of the muscle medial to the incision. Oblique incisions can be used for transperitoneal or extraperitoneal approach. It can be gridiron muscle splitting incision, which can be used for extraperitoneal drainage of an abscess from pelvic inflammatory disease, made obliquely downwards and inwards over the McBurney's point. And Rocky Davis incision is an alternative to McBurney's incision. It is a transverse incision placed at the junction of middle and lower third of a line extending from anterior superior iliac spine to the umbilicus. Medially, it extends to the lower border of the rectus muscle. The complications of abdominal incision are hematoma, stitch abscess, wound infection, wound dehiscence, burst abdomen, fistula formation, wound pain, incisional hernia, adhesions and its complication, and unsightly scar. Factors that affect the strength of scar are type of surgery, types of incision, obesity, pregnancy, straining, cough, ascites, nutrition, diabetes, and immunosuppression. This is all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shweta. That was very nice. Very good presentation. Excellent.
Thank you, ma'am.
And when you present, you should always say what are your sources,
Okay,
references.
Ma'am, I have taken the things from Talents and
Very good. Very good. That's the Bible. Now I will, any questions PGs want to ask? PGs want to ask any questions, please?
Shweta, what is the importance of Langer lines?
the Langer lines are they represent the collagen fibers arrangement in the body, and if we are making the incision along these lines, the tension is decreased and the scar that is formed is cosmetically more better. And if the incision is made in if the incision is not parallel to it, there is increased tension in the incision and the scar that result is not very fine or cosmetically better, because there is also always a tension in the collagen fibers and the muscle fibers.
Very good.
Why?
Acha, Shweta, suppose, sorry, Mala, please carry on, Mala.
Just asking one or two questions. You know?
Yeah, carry on, carry on. I also have 2-3. Pucho, pucho.
The angular hernia is more common in
Sorry, ma'am.
सुनाई नहीं दिया माला?
angular hernia, मतलब angle से hernia आता है ना, in transverse incision. Why it is
Spigelian. Very good. बताओ Shweta, what is Spigelian hernia? Dr. Mala is asking what is Spigelian hernia and why it occurs. Shweta?
Sorry,
Spigelian hernia is when you remember when you showed us the layers, the external oblique, internal oblique aponeurosis. There's some of times
Yes.
when you cut the rectus sheath too much laterally and you don't stitch it, because there is no support there, the hernia,
Yes,
the
ma'am.
intestines may herniate. That is Spigelian hernia, lateral angle of the incision hernia.
Okay, ma'am.
Now my question, Mala, please, any more question, Mala?
on?
Okay, Shweta, now you tell me, patient has had a Phanestoel surgery operation, cesarean, hysterectomy through a large Phanestoel, big fibroid,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
he has a numbness of the anterolateral aspect of the thigh.
Ma'am,
Which nerve have you damaged?
Ma'am, because when we extend the phalansteal incision, there is a risk of injury to the ilioinguinal and iliohypogastric nerves. So, if you are making wide incision, then there might be the injury to iliohypogastric or ilioinguinal nerve. So that she could have
What is
numbness
the
in the anterior.
ilioinguinal? What are the supplies of these nerves?
Ma'am, L1. It is a branch of lumbar plexus, and L1 represents the ilioinguinal and iliohypogastric, and it supplies the iliohypogastric. It supplies the interior lower part of the abdomen and interior upper anterior part of the thigh. And ilioinguinal is basically in the inguinal region and lower abdominal area.
And sometimes you can also damage the lateral cutaneous nerve of the thigh, which supplies the lateral aspect of the thigh.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Okay. Now, second question is, you have done a laparoscopy, okay, diagnostic laparoscopy, and you have gone through the inferior epigastric. Your trocar has gone through the inferior epigastric artery.
Yes, ma'am.
You have not realized it. First of all, you know how you can recognize it intra-op. What will happen if you have gone through the inferior epigastric, your puncture? You will see spurting vessels, spurting blood coming out
Yes,
from the
ma'am.
abdomen or inside the abdomen through the laparoscope, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, supposing you have missed it, okay,
Okay.
and hematoma forms, rectus sheath hematoma. What is the anatomical location of a rectus sheath hematoma?
Ma'am,
Where is it located?
uh,
So the original
you know,
diagram, तो आपने rectus sheath, anterior rectus sheath, posterior rectus sheath का diagram दिखाइए.
ma'am, it will form below the fascia, transversalis fascia.
Below the fascia transversalis in the abdomen.
Ma'am,
Show. Now where is the inferior? See.
sorry, ma'am. It
हाँ,
will
अब
be.
देखो आपका inferior epigastric artery कहाँ है? There is anterior rectus sheath, ये orange muscle है तुम्हारी,
Yes,
है ना?
ma'am.
नीचे inferior epigastric artery है ना? उसके नीचे तुम्हारा posterior rectus sheath है कि नहीं?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
supposing you have injured this thing,
It will be just below the rectus muscle and
above the posterior
the
rectus sheath,
rectus
because
sheath.
normally
Above
this
the
will be
posterior
above.
rectus
This
sheath.
is not below the arcuate line. It will be above the arcuate
Above
line.
the posterior rectus sheath and below rectus muscle.
Yes, it will not be below the fascia. If it is below the fascia, it will be in the abdomen.
Yes, ma'am.
So what is the management of a rectus sheath hematoma?
Ma'am, we will.
What will patient complain?
Ma'am, there will be
Patient complain?
excruciating pain.
When?
Uh,
You told us the functions of the rectus muscle are twisting the abdomen, turning the abdomen,
yes,
straining at
ma'am.
screws, straining for susu, straining at childbirth.
When the patient will strain, then there will be pain.
Yes. How will you manage?
Ma'am, if prophylactically we can. First,
नहीं हो गया हेमाटोमा हो गया. आप सस्पेक्ट कर रहे हो, आप क्या अल्ट्रासाउंड से डायग्नोज करोगे, कैसे करोगे? These are practical questions I'm
we are
asking.
placing the trocar to that trocar is puncturing to at the site of the trocar we can see the bleeding.
Okay, and then you can take a bite through the laparoscope and you can stitch it under vision.
Under vision, yes, ma'am.
Now supposing there is you have not seen it, it is slowly forming, and there is a big hematoma. Now what the patient in the evening is very pale. You have done operation and evening patient is 4 grams.
And we will perform a laparotomy for paramedian incision.
Laparotomy will you do, or you can do something else also? You can do a laparoscopy again, and you can drain it through the laparoscope into the abdomen, general abdominal cavity. Unless it's very big and there is because once you drain it, you will not see the spurter. It would have got lost.
You would not be able to see it.
Or if you are not too confident, then you can do a full open the abdomen and then drain the hematoma.
Then you can see the sputter and
Then you can
like it.
If you can see very well, then you can. Okay. Now you tell me, you have told us about the Czerny's incision.
Yes, ma'am.
Where you detach the rectus muscle
Yes, ma'am.
from its incision line. Now, which
Yes.
surgery you think we will do this Czerny's incision in gynecological?
Ma'am, when we perform surgeries for urinary incontinence like
Which is that surgery?
suspension, Birch colposens,
Birch, yes. Birch or Marshall Marchetti Kuntz MMK procedure. Then you do the Czerny incision. You have to
yes.
cut. Czerny is cut. Maillard is cut the. Czerny's is detach and Maillard
Catch
is
and
cut.
Milazid cut.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. What are you doing next Thursday? Who is doing next Thursday, PGs?
By Dr. Jyotsna.
Fine, ma'am. Jyotsna, ma'am.
Jyotsna.
Yeah,
Very
what
Yes,
is the
ma'am.
topic?
What is the topic?
Ma'am, consents and gynecology.
Eh?
Consents and gynecology.
Very good.
Consent,
Now,
consent
this
and
is a
gynecology.
very important topic, and it is very, very nice that actually when we had made the topics, I had personally made the topic such that these things are never taught, never discussed. That's why I said today abdominal, like the Camper's fascia, the Scarpa's fascia. Now the Camper's fascia is because a woman has to become pregnant. So this helps to expand the abdomen. So you will present it next week, and again the Tablets India, we are thankful to them for supporting us. Any other question? Dr. Chandra is here. Dr. Mala, any question?
Further questions.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot, ma'am.
Thanks to
for
Tablets
Thank you,
India.
ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Can we end, ma'am?
Yes, we can end. We can end. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
Thanks a
ma'am.
lot.